A century ago, a German architect thought of the craziest scheme in history. He aimed to literally empty the entire ocean. This proposal stood as the most ambitious ever envisioned in the realm of monumental engineering projects. It surpassed the grandeur of the pyramids of Giza, the might of the Hoover Dam, and even the marvel of the Panama Canal. Yet the question lingers, what motivated him to pursue such an extraordinary idea? And intriguingly, was there any potential for his plan to be successful? To delve into this intriguing narrative, let's rewind to the 19th century, a time when many Europeans, particularly in Germany, were engaged in discussions about a concept known as Lebensraum. Translated to English, Lebensraum means living space, and it's a rather straightforward idea. As a country's population grows, the inhabitants require more space. Fast forward to the 1920s, and this concept captured the attention of none other than Adolf Hitler, significantly shaping his worldview. Hitler envisioned that, as Germany gained power, it would necessitate an expanded living space. This idea wasn't exclusive to Hitler. Other Europeans shared similar thoughts. With populations soaring across the continent, the competition for space intensified, just like swollen balloons in a cramped room. The escalating energy demand was another factor. As populations increased, so did the need for energy, making essential resources like coal and oil increasingly important. The prevailing sentiment was that a conflict over new living space in Europe was obvious. Expanding nations found themselves in a predicament, craving land and resources and seemingly left with no choice but to acquire them from each other. However, in the 1920s, a German named Hermann Sorgel approached the issue from an entirely novel perspective. Sorgel unveiled one of the most astonishing plans in history, a concept he dubbed Atlantropa. The name Atlantropa cleverly combines Atlantic and Europa, intending to evoke thoughts of Atlantis, the mythical underwater city. Comparing the myth of Atlantis to Sorgel's plans for Atlantropa poses a challenge in determining which appears more possible. In straightforward terms, Sorgel's grand vision involved draining the Mediterranean. By emptying this vast body of water, he envisioned creating new land for European settlement, offering a peaceful solution to the Lebensraum problem without resorting to war. The Mediterranean, approximately 8 times larger than modern Germany, represented an extensive and untapped expanse. Sorgel envisioned transforming the reclaimed land into fertile plains, featuring picturesque networks of towns and cities where people could live in harmony without the constraints of limited space. Additionally, with the Mediterranean out of the equation, travel between Europe and Africa would be easier. This can provide additional living space because Europeans could migrate to Africa, establishing new cities and homes. Interestingly, Sorgel drew inspiration from a real geological event. The Mediterranean's unique characteristic is that water evaporates from its surface faster than it receives water from rivers. The Atlantic Ocean, flowing through the Strait of Gibraltar, maintains a consistent sea level. However, about 5 million years ago, shifting tectonic plates closed off the Strait of Gibraltar. The Mediterranean, isolated, began to shrink as water evaporated faster than it was replenished. The water level dropped, and this revealed wide land patches. Thousands of years later, the strait reopened, causing a massive flood that refilled the basin. During this period, the Mediterranean had temporarily transformed into a small sea, significantly increasing the total land area of the European continent. Sorgel aimed to recreate this scenario, proposing a solution grounded in civil engineering instead of waiting for tectonic plates to shift. Sorgel had an incredibly ambitious plan in mind. The main point of his grand proposal was to construct a dam across the Strait of Gibraltar, effectively replacing the natural tectonic closure with a man-made version. However, building this dam presented huge challenges. The Strait of Gibraltar at its deepest point plunged 900 meters, a height never before tackled by any dam at that time. Even today, only a couple of dams just like the Jinping and Nurek in China have surpassed this mark. Apart from the unprecedented depth, Sorgel faced the obstacle of the strait's significant width. At its narrowest, it spanned 13 kilometers, a colossal distance for dam construction. To put it in perspective, Jinping and Nurek Dam, the tallest dams in history, only crossed distances of 600 and 700 meters respectively. Sorgel's envisioned dam not only needed to be much taller than existing dams, but also 20 times longer. But that was just the beginning. Beyond damming the Atlantic, Sorgel aimed to dam the Dardanelles Strait to separate the Mediterranean from the Black Sea. This project is slightly less challenging, but still over a kilometer wide. Collaboratively, these colossal dams were intended to isolate the Mediterranean and make its water level drop. Zorgel's plan didn't stop there. After isolating the Mediterranean, he proposed building another dam between Sicily and Tunisia, dividing the sea into two halves over a distance exceeding 150 kilometers. This dam was even more ambitious, as it would facilitate different water levels in the western and eastern halves, dropping by 100 and 200 meters, respectively. These descending water levels were calculated to reveal an astonishing 700,000 square kilometers of land, double the size of Germany. But there was more to Zorgel's vision. Recognizing the threat of overpopulation to Europe's power supplies, he intended for Atlantropa's super dams to serve as hydroelectric power stations, generating sufficient electricity to support the newly established cities in the region and power other parts of Europe. In essence, Zorgel not only aimed to convert the Mediterranean into a living space, but also transform it into a colossal water-powered battery. While this may sound incredibly ambitious, Zorgel garnered popularity at the time. He authored numerous books, published hundreds of leaflets and articles, and gained support from people who saw Atlantropa as a peaceful solution to the overpopulation dilemma. Some politicians preferred investing in Atlantropa over spending the same amount on warfare. Architects and engineers of that era bet on Zorgel's ideas. A new proposal emerged, suggesting a series of dams to block the Strait of Gibraltar instead of a single one, functioning like steps or terraces. This alternative design aimed to distribute the load of the water more evenly across the dams, reducing the risk of collapse. Inspired by the Zuiderzee works in the Netherlands, where a system of dams and dikes successfully held back part of the North Sea, contemporary advocates believed that such a colossal project might be feasible. This confidence propelled Zorgel to conceive even more significant ideas. Expanding his scope, Zorgel envisioned connecting Europe to Africa, creating a unified continent called Eurafrica. Another dam across the Congo River would create a freshwater inland sea to irrigate the Sahara Desert, transforming it into fertile land. According to Zorgel, this would make the area actually useful to Europe. The plan included railways connecting the region to Europe, traversing the dams across the Strait of Gibraltar and the one between Sicily and Tunisia. Certainly, not everyone embraced these proposals. Looking back, they reflected a colonialist mindset prevalent in Europe at that time and failed to consider the perspectives of the people already residing in Africa. These individuals did not welcome an influx of Europeans claiming their land. While Zorgel aimed to avert a war crisis in Europe, he appeared indifferent to the potential disruption of African citizens' lives. So, what are your thoughts? Do you consider Zorgel's plan a good idea? And is it possible to build such a massive mega project? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.